Well, I've been waiting here so long, but thinking nothing could go wrong. Oh, now I know. She has a built-in ability to take everything she sees. And now it seems I'm falling for her. She seems to have an invisible touch. Yeah, she reaches in and grabs right hold of your heart. She seems to have an invisible touch. Yeah, it takes control and slowly tears you apart. Now, if you knew anything about Phil Collins' life, you'd realize that this song that he sung, An Invisible Touch, song that he wrote, was actually an ode to his life history, an ode to his many bungles and adventures with women. Because effectively right now, he's in a situation where his ex-wife has married somebody new and is living on the same property, and he's filing a lawsuit on account of this. Now, Phil Collins has been through at least 3 marriages, the documented ones at least, and what does that have to show for it? Divorce after divorce after divorce, and him forking over his enormous fortune in the process. He has lost tens and tens of millions of dollars over the years due to the divorce process. And the reason why I want to talk about Phil Collins is because he's such an extreme example. You have this case of this gentleman, worked and sung in Genesis, and then had an extremely successful solo career. Many hits, In the Air Tonight, Invisible Touch. You can keep on going on. And frankly speaking, he is an idiot when it comes to certain things. And Phil Collins is not unique in this respect. But what he does offer us is a very prominent and particular picture of a man who never learns his lesson. And these men abound. He shows the dichotomy that exists between somebody who can be incredibly talented and successful. I mean, he's a very talented musician, singer, songwriter. He was wildly successful. And despite all of this, he got married at least 3 times, failed at the marriage at least 3 times, and thought that by him running the same race repeatedly, he somehow would be successful. Imagine if every time I wanted to take a swim, I decided to jump in a crocodile-infested river, and I narrowly escaped with my life every time, 3 times in a row. And then I asked myself, what has gone awry here? What's the problem? Well, of course, it's pretty obvious. If I want to take a swim, maybe I could take a swim in a swimming pool. Maybe I could look at some other swimming options. But jumping into a crocodile-infested river probably is not the best idea. And yet, that's essentially what he's done. And he's in this horrific situation right now where his former wife has remarried somebody else. They've apparently hired thugs to keep him off of the property which he owns. And the whole thing is just a gigantic mess. And he's not the only one. There are more mild cases of this. Successful men, successful entrepreneurs, people like Elon Musk, for example, who is not divorced as frequently, but become all starry-eyed when they talk about romance and love. And it's interesting because if you do look at the discography of Phil Collins, you'll see a lot of overlap with the mishaps, romantic mishaps in his life, and the songs he produced. In the Air Tonight, it is claimed by him, was a song simply produced for reasons of anger and frustration. But where did this anger and frustration come from? Invisible Touch. Now, we don't know for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me that he was either in the process of being lifted of his money in a divorce, or it was pending at the time. The point I'm trying to drive home here is that just because a person is very smart or successful doesn't mean he has the kind of awareness that's required to navigate what are crocodile or shark-infested waters these days. Because the reality is these instincts are so deep-seated in many of us, and most of us, that many people, many men, find it nearly impossible to overcome them. Because again, to use the old analogy, if you are looking at a business venture and you tried it once, and then you tried it twice, and you tried it 3 times, thrice, and it failed each time, but you kept on doing it, who's to blame ultimately here? Because the reality as it stands these days is that men need to be adaptive. The times have changed. Marriage for a very long time hasn't been safe. And even the dating market is incredibly convoluted and skewed. And if you want to approach these things with a blank slate approach and operate solely off of your feelings and your emotions, well, yeah, eventually you're going to be subjected to the invisible touch. And in doing so, you might be lifted of certain possessions you have as well. And I think this is something that a large sector of human beings, both men and women, but specifically men, don't get. The good old days, to the extent they ever existed, are gone. They're not coming back. And even if it were a good thing for them to come back, they're not. So we have a new environment. And what do you do in a new environment? You typically adapt or perish. If we were, for example, in a situation where there were some massive climate change, I'm not referring to the consensus climate change, but something that ushered in a mini ice age where global temperatures plummeted and agriculture and going to the beach became an impossibility, well, you might be wise to prepare for that. It wouldn't do you any good to complain about the good old days and back when it was warm in the summer and when you had all these opportunities to plant tomatoes in your garden and cucumbers or what have you. You'd have to think, aha, this is a new challenge. And this is the point I want to drive home. The things that have occurred in dating and mating in the last few decades, and far more rapidly in the last decade now, with the presence of social media, the internet, online interactions, is such that it's effectively a new climatic challenge in that regard. Men need to adapt, and even women need to adapt. Some women are adapting, and it's easier for them to adapt for a variety of reasons that we don't need to go into here. But as it stands now, we have this situation where marriage is a very dangerous, risky business. And on top of that, we have this situation where even conventional dating doesn't really work anymore. Not with things like Tinder, not with the difficulty of the mating and dating market. And so it's on individual men to suss that out, to figure it out. And such men can all learn lessons from luminaries such as Phil Collins, who, great singer, great musician, great songwriter, who learned absolutely nothing during the course of his life about women and about his relationships with women and about his repeatedly failed marriages. And that's the difference. No matter how talented you are, no matter what abilities you have, no matter how smart you are, if you allow your instincts and your emotions to rule you, they can lead you to ruin. And navigating this new world is going to require a certain savviness and awareness of the environment that not every man possesses. But we need to acknowledge that things have changed. Phil Collins, for all I know, never acknowledged that marriage itself was a very risky and dangerous institution, and that notions such as romantic love are predicated on a very bad and poor understanding of male-female relations. Just as guys who think they can just be nice guys and find a nice girl are living in a fantasy world. Life and reality has changed, and we all need to move with it and adapt. And Phil Collins is a fantastic example of this, as are many, many other successful, wealthy, and famous men who simply have not caught on. You as an individual man, empowered with an awareness and knowledge of these ongoing changes, does not need to fall for that trap. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified for forthcoming videos. And as always, may the gods watch over you. If I'm still alive, I'll check you out later. Bye-bye for now. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.